Hi and welcome to today's video tutorial. So for today we are going to look at the behavior sit and then the behavior that coincides with that stay. So why do we do a sit stay? We do a sit stay because it has got a safety aspect to it, it's got good greeting manners to it, there's a numerous reasons why you would want to do that. So say for instance you get to the curb of the road and you want your dog to sit and stay seated next to you before you cross the road. All you need to do is simply ask for the sit. And then also if somebody, say for instance you're walking and somebody approaches you and your dog looks like they're going to jump on the person in greeting, just counter that behavior by asking your dog for a sit. So a very solid sit is crucial when we look at good dog behavior in general. So before we can start with the actual stay part, we need to get the sit. So in the next segment, I am going to just take you through the steps on how to get your dog to offer you a sit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of food, raise it up and over Mr. Darcy's head. His bum is going to hit the ground. I'm going to mark with a yes and I'm going to reward him 3 consecutive times. Yes. 1, 2, and 3. Good boy. And what I'm going to do now to make sure that we can take the exercise and repeat the exercise, I'm just going to throw a treat away so that he moves. And then I'm going to do the same again. Yes. 1, 2, and 3. Good boy. And I am just going to throw a treat out the side there for him. So what you are looking for is that your dog really reacts very quickly to the hand signal. And when that is done, we can then take it to the next level, which we will cover in the segment that follows. Okay, so we're going to look at that duration now, and the first thing that you will notice is that when I ask Mr. Darcy for a sit and his bum hits the ground, I am not going to give the yes straight away. What I'm going to be looking for is that he sits for about 2 or 3 seconds. Then I'm going to mark with a yes and then reward him. So what is happening? The behavior becomes different. To the dog now, the behavior that is starting to learn is sit and keep sitting for 3 seconds. Because it's only after that time that I will mark with a yes, which to him is the indicator that that is the behavior that I want. So let's try that quickly. I'm just going to set him up here. Okay. Yes. 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 And I'm just going to set them here. So that is how we are using the hand signal and how we are starting to build a little bit of duration within the sit. So now we have focused on a hand signal. The dog sits with that if we ask him with a hand signal, and we've also looked at increasing the duration of the sit. But to be quite honest with you, we need to fade out 2 things. We need to fade out number 1, the food reward that we have in this hand, in other words, the food lure. Because if we don't, we are going to get into a situation potentially where the dog will only sit if you have the food lure. And also, a lot of clients and a lot of people get so fixated on having that food reward that they truly believe that the dog won't sit without it. So let's start fading the food lure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have absolutely no food in this hand. I'm still going to use my hand signal as before, but then what I'm going to do is I am going to reward him from my other hand. So in dog training lingo, this becomes your lure hand and this becomes your reward hand. So no food in your lure hand, yes. And then just send him away again. So I'm going to do that again. So again, no food in the hand that's going to ask him for the behavior. Yes. And you can see there I extended the period of time a little bit before I marked the behavior. Very important to start fading out the lure. So we now have got rid of the food lure. Now it's time to get rid of the hand lure, because the hand lure needs to be taken out of the equation. You want to be able to verbally ask your dog for a sit. Looking back on the previous clips, you will have noticed that I haven't used the word sit as yet. I'm only going to introduce the word sit now. And how I'm going to do that is that I am going to say the word sit. I'm going to wait about a second or so, and then if the dog didn't give me a sit, then I will use the lure hand. Okay? I will mark with a yes and I'll reward. And it's very important, your sequence here. You have to ask verbally, then have a good gap, and if the dog doesn't sit in that gap, then you use your lure hand to ask. So once you have introduced the sit, you have faded out the food lure, you faded out the hand, you should be able to get a dog that sit when asked to sit. Just remember, give him a little bit of time just to comprehend what you're asking, so don't expect for an immediate sit straight away. That's a little bit of an unrealistic expectation. So what it's going to look like, I'm just going to send him away there a little bit. Sit. Yes. 1, 2, 3. So that was a very good example where I gave the verbal cue, the dog didn't listen, and then I introduced the visual cue. So really important that you give that period of time in between the verbal cue and the visual cue. Let's now see what it will look like just asking for the sit behavior. Sit. Yes. And I'm building a little bit of duration there, because remember, ultimately your sit and your stay are totally interlinked. Only difference here is I haven't used the word stay, because to him sit means I sit. Okay. So go out there and practice that now, and in our next session we will raise the expectation a little bit more for our dogs. Thank you and happy training.